Good afternoon. Sorry for the short delay there. We're dealing with some technical issues here. Welcome to the people that are here in the room, and hello to the folks that are watching online and eventually watching on the recording of this event. My name's Eric Norberg. I'm the Dean of the Paul Meek Library. Happy to have people here today. This event is part of the UT Martin Research Series. Those that have been here before have heard my spiel, but I always like to give it each time we start, which is that very often people think of UT Martin as a teaching college, and we do a really good job of teaching students and have wonderful classroom experiences. But our faculty here also undertake research as part of their employment. Every one of our faculty members are required to participate in various types of research. They present at conferences, they do publications, creative works as part of their effort here at UT Martin, and they also engage a lot of our students in different types of research, some that they partner with in the research and others where they help to support students who undertake their own research projects. And so really the series is about trying to highlight that research activity here on our campus. We have two more events beyond today. You can find those listed on the university's runway page. In April, we will have Dr. Henry Giles, who's in the history department, history and philosophy department, who's going to present on her recent dissertation research, which involved interviewing African Americans in Haywood County, Brownsville area, and she'll be talking about that work. And then we also have an event the week after commencement, which many of our students probably won't attend because they'll be far away already. But we try to have our final event downtown as partnership with the public library. And at that event, we're going to have Derek Shepard, who's from our Department of Educational Studies, who's going to report on research that he's been doing, looking at educational attainment, educational access for students from different backgrounds. So again, you can come to our library runway page on the UTM runway site and learn about the dates and times for those events. I also want to make sure that the students that are here that are aware on the back table we do have a sign-in sheet. The university is running a program called UTM Plus, and for students that participate in these sorts of events, you can be entered in for various types of perks if you indicate that you were here. So all you got to do is fill in that sheet and we'll make sure. I think that goes for the speakers as well. You get to count today. So with that in mind, I want to turn things over to the program as quickly as I can. And to do that, I'm going to invite Dr. John Glass to come up and talk a little bit about today's program. Dr. Glass is one of the directors, the primary, but with others in the room, who run the UTM Scholars Program. And I'm going to ask him to talk a little bit about that program in general, but then to talk about the role that research plays in the UTM Scholars Program, and to introduce our student research scholars today who are going to talk about their projects. So with that, I'll turn things over to John.
We went from very fluid speech to me now beginning to stumble through what I have to say and think about all the things to say about this program. It's a remarkable program. UT Martin's had the University Scholars Program since 1981, and the research component that students in that program pursue has always been present since the beginning. When I became director in 2018, in the fall of 2018, one of the changes that we made was that the research program, the project that students do, needed to be conducted in their own major field of study, which has its pluses and minuses, but we found that it has mostly pluses, and it helps students studying a particular subject learn a great deal more about what they're invested in. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this position for the last, this is what, the 7th year, the beginning of the 7th, halfway through the 7th year. And in that time, we have graduated now over 500 students through the University Scholars Program. This year we will have the largest graduating class. All these students are members of that class, and we will look forward to hearing from them in just a second. But we should have 20 scholars graduate this year. As the program developed, we used to take 15 students a year, and now we take 30. And over the course of students' 4 years, people sometimes will find other interests, they will have develop other focuses, but we have a remarkably high retention rate. The sophomore class kept everybody, and the junior class has just about everybody. And I expect that in the next couple of years, we will see something very, very close to the 120 students that we have funding to cover. And it's our great pleasure to help students pursue the work that they're interested in their fields of study. Fields of study, though, exceed the number of people at the table. So today you're going to hear from a future chemist, a chemist, philosopher, lawyer, a veterinarian, an engineer, an historian, and a micro and cell biologist, engineer, and chemist. Is that right? Something like that. But they'll say more about those things. I'm going to let the students introduce themselves rather than run down a great litany. They know more about themselves than I do. So why don't we start with Austin Vest? Or Bailey. Is that yours? It's up. Is that how we've done that? I just turned around. Oh, here, just come on. If yours is already on the screen, I just saw it behind me. Sorry. Bailey Erhan.
Alrighty. What do I click to make the slides go? Just tap it? Perfect. All right. Well, I'm here on this panel. Hi, everybody. My name is Bailey Erhan. There we go. I have an introduction page, actually. I'm a senior mechatronic engineering major here at UT Martin. I come from a really small town called Oak Ridge, Missouri, and I graduated from a high school that was under 400 students K through 12. So now I'm at Martin, which is also another small university, and I'm going to another small university. I'm going to attend the University of Tennessee Space Institute to do metallurgy research with the Air Force. And I do a lot of research here, but I also do a lot of other things. I've attended 2 internships, I've been to 5 different conferences, I'm in 6 organizations, and I've also held 2 mentorship positions. So very full plate. But I do a lot of research as well. So I made you guys a little timeline, so that way we can look and see the breakdown of what is expected of a scholar coming in who may also have to do other research. Everything starts in, here, I'll stand back so you can actually see this portion. Everything starts in the spring of your sophomore year. For me, that was 2023. And I went ahead and selected a project just for scholars, and I went ahead and picked a mentor and a second reader, which is required for you to have a project. In a little bit, I'll get into what my actual project is, and you'll get to see the fun of metallurgy. But as I moved in through the semesters, I had a first trial that I thought was going to be super successful. Hit spring, I had a horrible failure with that trial that led to an even more productive new trial that coincided with another research project, Senior Design for Engineering. And both of these projects are independent of each other, so they do not have any connection to one to another, which, as you can imagine, is really, really fun for me. And fun for you guys, because I make really awesome things. And then at the end, the goal is to get to the defense. So we're working our way there. For my scholars research, this is a really long title and I don't have it memorized just yet, but I am studying the complete procedure for metallographic sample preparation and material characterization imaging for heat-treated 4340 and 52100 alloy steels. It's a mouthful, but I heat treat metal, so I get it red hot in an oven, I take it out and I dunk it in oil and try not to burn myself, which hasn't been done. You wear protective gear. And then I break them. Put them in a machine, and I pull them apart. And that proved to be really difficult because I made some really awesome steel. And then I take those broken pieces, and I cut them apart and make these little samples. So that way I can fit them under a microscope. Because what I do is I like to look at the microstructure of metal. I think it's beautiful as a big piece, but I want to know what's happening in the small pieces, what keeps it together at a microscopic level. And to do this, I use scanning electron microscopy, or SEM, and I also do profilometry, which is the measure of surface roughness. So if you run your finger across it, you're probably not going to feel it because it's microscopic, but where are those peaks and where are those valleys in the sample? And I included pictures because it's a lot to kind of form an image of, so I wanted you guys to see what I do. This was during my first trial, actually, and I cut these samples, and I have little bitty pieces of metal in here that are clipped so that way they stay in place. And I put them under a vacuum chamber. And I fill that with epoxy. So that way they cast into this nice little sample that I can hold and not scratch the metal. And then to get to the metal, I polish it with this automatic polisher. And you do multiple rounds of different grits of almost like sandpaper, but a lot finer, to make sure that metal is like mirror like quality, perfectly smooth, so you get a good image. And then, at this point in time, we were using what you call an eyeball method, right? Really, really scientific stuff, where you take this little sample, and you put an etchant, which could be an acid or a solution formula, and you swab it across the metal, and then you wait till you think it's about right and rinse it off. And that will change the surface of the metal so you can see what's happening underneath. In my case, I use a chemical etchant. So I want to dissolve the iron and leave the carbides in the steel so I can see the grain formations, which is what is the composition, not quite to the atom, that would be really difficult, but the little bitty grain pieces in the metal where the carbides form, what do they look like? Are we having road marks? Are we having chicken scratches? What do I got? I also did a fair amount of heat treating. So I take these tinsel bars and I stick them in an oven. They get really hot, and then I pull them out and they cool down. And we load them into Whitmer's favorite machine, and we break them. We pull them apart until they snap in half. And of course, we record the data because it wouldn't be fun to break something and not have any data. And then I'm left with these. And that's really hard to get a microscopic image of a cross section if you just have these bars. So we'll slice them into little bitty pieces and do the previous process. This is what you get. These are some of my favorite pictures that I've gotten from my research. I think they look really cool. I hope you think they look really cool. But scanning electron microscopy, it's a long process, but it uses a laser that will go down and bounce off the surface of the material you'll have, and it will detect lights and shadows, creating a three-dimensional image. Oh, that's not what I wanted. All of these are different metals. All of these have different patterns. Circles are carbides. Rice-looking things are grains. And that's exactly what you want to see. Now, since I didn't label each picture, I can't really tell you which one it is because I was in a rush, but you get the picture, right? No pun intended. Then we have profilometry, and this is my favorite characterization technique, is where you measure the surface roughness of a sample. So these are the images that you see once it gets into focus. This one has a lot less etchant than this one. As you can tell, different colorizations. And then you have just the surface picture, the two-dimensional scan of everything, and then they gives you a three-dimensional profile that you can go through and analyze on where our peaks are, where our valleys are, and I get a whole bunch of equations and a whole bunch of numbers that tell me how to make my own material profile. I do not have that up there though. And then I'm also doing senior design, which I think isn't my scholars project, but it's also really important to talk about both researches I do because they both hold the same equal amount of love in my heart. I am working with the UT Martin manufacturing team, and we're making a penny press. So if you come to UT Martin, hopefully you can get your own little custom stem penny. And I'm in charge of the mechanical functions on the interior. So all the gears, the dies, the stand to hold the gears and the dies. And then I generated the gears so they meshed together. I created the designs on the dies, which is what presses the design into your penny. And I'm also doing FEA analysis on the stand and gears to make sure it all doesn't break apart. More pictures, right? So the little die that has all of these images on it, a really big gear, as you can tell, a really big gear. This is a over 2 foot diameter gear. So, and then our little small ones. But this is what it will look like fully assembled, hopefully. This is the goal. And then because of the weight of how much metal was in this gear, we went ahead and cut out some holes in the center to reduce the mass. But a little bit about why, a little bit about why I do research. Time management is crucial. I don't have good time management skills. I have much better time management skills. Mistakes are key to better designs. If you fail, it's okay. You will get better as you fail more. And then it doesn't mean the end of your project. I thought that my project was ruined. It was not. Now I have an even better project. Very proud of myself. And bad and no results are still results. That is something to keep in mind. If you get absolutely nothing, great. You have a line to go off of. Thanks for attending. And then I'm going to hand it over to Seth Hatchett.
Hello, everyone. Uh, my name is Seth Hatchett, and I'm a junior university scholar. I'm a triple major in electrical engineering, cell and molecular biology, and general chemistry with a minor in neuroscience. My goal for after my time here at UT Martin is to become a physician scientist with a specialization in neuroengineering or a related field. This will require completing a dual MD PhD program. And during my time here at UT Martin, I, like Bailey, have completed 2 concurrent research projects under 2 fantastic research mentors that are both here today in order to develop the skill set that will be required both to be admitted into graduate school as well as to perform in a graduate program and in my career as a physician scientist. Is this working? Okay. So, um, I wanted to talk a little bit about my 2 research projects. I did not prepare slides, but I want to talk a little bit about my 2 research projects and then talk about what I have developed by conducting them. So my first research project that I want to talk about is my molecular biology research project with Dr. Smart, who's here. So this project is a genetic analysis of the gene responsible for the spider phenotype in ball pythons. So ball pythons are a type of snake that are commonly kept in captivity by lots of people, including myself. And one particular phenotype that is available in captivity has abnormal coloration, which looks like a spider web on a white background, hence their name spider. But unfortunately, these snakes also suffer from an unusual neurological disorder, which involves a variety of symptoms like twisting their head, being unable to balance, or being unable to right themselves when placed upside down. I wanted to discover the gene that was responsible for this condition, and in order to do this, I have been extracting DNA from snake skins and then using a technique called PCR, or polymerase chain reaction, to selectively amplify the gene that I believe may be responsible for this condition. Once I have done this, I can then sequence the gene from both wild-type and spider ball pythons and compare the 2 sequences using bioinformatics technology like SnapGene, Muscle, and BLAST to look for differences between the 2 sequences, which could indicate the gene that is responsible. What I like about this project is it has given me the opportunity to explore something that is interesting to me, but that I will not be doing in graduate school because I don't wish to be a herpetologist. Additionally, it's given me the ability to test and plan my own scientific experiment, which is something that would not be available at a larger university until I was a senior graduate student or postdoc. Um, Now I want to start talking about my other research project. So I also conduct research with Dr. Simon Sargolzi, who is also here in the Department of Engineering. So my research with him is focused on EEG-assisted driving simulation. So EEG, for those of you who don't know, stands for electroencephalography. This is a cap of electrodes which can sense the underlying electrical activity of the brain through the skull. This allows us to non-invasively determine the effect of various different stimuli on the brain. A driving simulator, as the name would suggest, is a platform containing a chair, pedals, steering wheel, and some sort of visual stimulation which allows for us to recreate the driving process in a safe, controlled environment. I have been given the honor of working with Dr. Sargolzi to create UT Martin's very first driving simulator, which will serve as a boon for our research community, both in the engineering department as well as the psychology department, and of course the biology department through our neuroscience minor. Additionally, um, it will serve as a tool for future engineering senior design projects after my own. This project is also, I'm currently also working with a senior design team under Dr. Sargolzi that is focused on discovering the role of driving an autonomous vehicle on stress. In order to do this, we're going to have human participants drive in a simulated autonomous vehicle and drive in a simulated controlled vehicle and gather electrical activity of their brains and compare the 2 groups to determine if an autonomous vehicle induces higher levels of stress and if the stress levels change over time. The reason why I like this project is, like my other project, it has given me the ability to develop my own experimental design skills to a level that would not have been available to me at a larger university. Additionally, it has given me the ability to plan experiments, which will be very useful next year when I begin my own senior design with Dr. Sergolzi, in which I will be planning and conducting a human studies experiment using the EEG assisted driving simulator to determine how long someone has to drive a particular route before that route becomes implicit memory. So basically, this means how many times do I have to drive between my home and college or anywhere else before that eventually becomes something I can do without consciously focusing on it. Ultimately, what I've gained from both of these experiments is something that I would not have gained at a larger university. This past summer, I was a research student at Duke University, and during my time there, I discovered that research at a large university for undergrads mostly consists of being a technician. And while I might have learned a few techniques I wouldn't learn here, at the end of the day, I would not have been studying my own scientific questions through mentored research with such fantastic mentors unless I were a senior graduate student or a postdoc. So it has given me something much earlier in my career, which will be essential for setting me apart both for graduate applications as well as for internships during undergrad. And it will give me a much better foundation for my future career. Additionally, something I would like to say about research, especially as someone who does lots of it, who conducts 2 research projects, is that research for me is one of my favorite parts of my undergraduate experience because I don't find it to be a job I have to do so much as it's something that I get to do. I enjoy doing it. So while I've had a fantastic time with our classes here, I think we have wonderful professors. Ultimately, classes are one size fits all, whereas research is individualized. You get to study what you want to study. And even if I run up into a hiccup or an error where something doesn't work right, like a simulator code has a glitch or a PCR product doesn't work, ultimately it still is in the service of figuring out something that I want to figure out. So I've always found it to be a fun reprieve from my classwork and my other responsibilities. And due to the advantages it has given me, along with the enjoyment it has brought me, my ability to conduct one-on-one research here at UT Martin has been a crucial part and one of, if not the most important part, of my undergraduate experience. And for that, I'll be forever grateful to UT Martin, the University Scholars Organization, and of course Dr. Smart and Dr. Sargolzi for giving me these opportunities. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha Wade, and I do indeed have a PowerPoint. Lovely. Fantastic. How do I make it full screen? Yes. Perfect. Thank you. That is not our quad. That is actually the governor's home in Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia. I visited there my senior year of high school. Thank you so much. So, again, I am Samantha Wade. I am a senior university scholar here, and I am a history major. At a glance, I want to talk about choosing a topic, a mentor, time management, and now that I am graduating in May, what am I doing now? So, first of all, I have always had an interest in early America, specifically colonial America and the Revolutionary period. The founding fathers, but particularly George Washington. This is a statue at the Yorktown Museum in Virginia, where I visited my senior year of high school. So again, I've always been interested in that. When it came time to choosing a topic, this kind of just naturally fell into my lap. It's enjoyable for me. I like understanding the people that have put forth where we are now. So picking a mentor, Dr. Glass knew that I was interested in George Washington, and he said, "You know who you should talk to? Dan McDonough." So I emailed Dr. McDonough, and I said, "This is what I'm interested in. what do you think? Would you be willing to be my mentor? And he said, well, I think so. We talked a little bit about specifically what I want my topic to be. So we played around with it a little bit. I couldn't do a project fully on George Washington. That's a very big project. There, there are many biographies that are multi-volume of George Washington, and that was not my goal. So I ended up centering around three particular women in his life: Sally Fairfax, Martha Washington, and Eliza Powell, and what those relationships looked like. So, how he interacted with them, was there influence? Can we prove the influence, which is very hard to prove historically, and how that impacted both ways. So now, as a mentor, I meet with Dr. McDonough periodically. I ask questions. I talk about issues that I'm having with my project. Where am I going? Am I on the right track? How is my progress looking? I actually met with him today to go over my introduction. And as far as I'm aware, he said I was on the right track and I was doing good. So, good for me. Um, Next, time management, right? So again, the project is research focused and centered, but there are a lot of other reasons to do research, right? Personal experience, academic experience, and things that you gain for yourself. So for me, I had to set both short and long-term goals. I like to be organized and stay on task, but sometimes that's really difficult for me. And so having those hard deadlines for myself to make sure that I'm actually getting work done is very important. I also had to hold myself accountable. Again, it's really easy to try and take a break for 10 minutes and then you end up on TikTok for an hour. Um, so making sure that I'm taking care of business, right? And working diligently and actually taking breaks that are 10 minutes and not an hour. But also realizing that if I am not motivated to work, doing what I can in that moment, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, is still getting work done. So lastly, now that I'm here, almost about to graduate in a few months, couple months, I am staying motivated, or trying to. Sometimes it's really difficult. Um, but that may mean going to get an energy drink and staying in the library and getting work done for a set amount of time before I can leave, and making myself actually sit down and do that work. It's keep working even if I don't feel motivated to, right? I mentioned that a little bit ago, but the idea is even if I'm just formatting my footnotes, that is still important work that needs to get done and is important to the project, even if it's not content work. And staying organized. Right now, I have all of my documents in one place separated so I can easily switch between them. If I get tired of working on one section, I go to the other one. I'm not messing with it anymore. I go to something else. I work on something completely different and change my focus so that I am still able to continue my process without falling behind. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brendan O'Brien. I am a senior vet science major, and I will be attending the University of Tennessee at Knoxville for vet school this fall. And my project is all costs, great and small, price sensitivity, and livestock production. So just a quick refresher, I guess, on what price sensitivity is. So for some products, you have the demand for that product from the consumers, and if you increase the price, less people buy it. You decrease the price, more people buy it. Um, However, there's some products where if you change the price, the same amount of people buy it, and that's essentially where price sensitivity comes in, and it's a qualitative measure of the customer's willingness to pay for a product. And in this case, in this project, the product is veterinary services for livestock animals, so your sheep, your goats, your cattle. So that's what we're trying to look at. So it's important because A, veterinarians need to know why their clients and if their clients are willing to pay for their services and what kinds of services. So there's kind of two types of veterinary services, routine scheduled vaccines, deworming, your basic, physical exam stuff. And then there's also emergency services, so that's things have gone awry, stressed, and all of that. Yeah. So the reason I got into this to essentially a economic or agribusiness project as a vet student is vet med doesn't really teach you how to run a business, yet a lot of veterinarians end up having to run businesses. And through the honors program, I got the opportunity to kind of do my own little academic exploration, so I decided I'm going to go and try and fill in that gap a little bit while I have the chance. And so at the very beginning of junior year, I kind of started working with Dr. Smart, kind of bouncing ideas about what to focus on. And eventually I found a mentor, one of the veterinarians on campus, Dr. Roberts, and we started looking at pricing. And it started with just, how do I price this to make up for this other thing? So with livestock veterinarians, one of the things that they have to do is go to the farm. And if you're going to the farm, that means while you're driving, you can't be seeing clients. And so what I originally wanted to do is try and find a way to kind of a pricing scheme for the veterinarians to best compensate for the fact that they can't be seeing clients while they're on the road. That didn't really work out, but I kept pulling that pricing thread and eventually found that we don't know how willing producers are to pay for livestock veterinary services. We know how much pet owners are willing to pay for their dogs and cats, which is generally whatever the bill is. But we don't know for your producers, and it could be quite different because livestock is, we see those animals quite differently than we do our pets. So in order to try and measure this, what we did is we built a survey that we're going to try and send out to producers in the area. We've had this survey out from April to around just recently. We managed to collect around 47 surveys and responses. And what we're just trying to gauge is their willingness to pay for the service and their attitudes towards veterinary services through the survey to kind of get that qualitative data. But what I learned from surveying is, hey, it's harder to find a sample to survey than you think, because the immediate thing that we wanted to do was kind of just, well, let's just put it on social media and hope everyone, responds, and that'd be nice. Except we don't know if the people on social media actually have livestock. So for all I know, it's the farmer's granddaughter responding because all she goes and does is take pictures with the cute calves, but doesn't actually make any business decisions. So that wasn't really a thing we could do because that would probably skew our data. So the next thing that we tried to do was we thought, well, a lot of people who own livestock have to come and get supplies for those livestock. So we said, let's go and try and survey and table at farm supply stores like Co-op or Tractor Supply. That didn't work either. Turns out, unless you're a cute little Girl Scout, they don't particularly want you at the front of the store trying to get people to do something. So I got booted to the far end of the parking lot, and I didn't see a single person. So that didn't work, so we had to reevaluate. And so I think eventually we ended up pulling in some contacts and some people's emails and sending it to people we knew who had livestock, and also to some local organizations like the Union City Cattlemen's Club. And that worked out much better. And then lastly, the last way we kind of tried to kind of boost the survey numbers a little bit was I was to go and try and survey people at a livestock auction here on campus at the Smith Center over there by the Vet Tech building. And that worked fairly well. I got a number of responses. It's just, I also found it's awkward to walk up to someone who's there to buy a cow and go, will you fill out my survey, please, and then walk away. So that was an experience, but I'm glad I did it because I think it made me more socially aware, I guess, if I had to approach people randomly for certain things. But yeah, so just some of our preliminary data that we had. This is from a conference from last semester, so these numbers are outdated and not from the 47 responses from earlier, but this is what I have right now because I'm in the process of finishing it all. But most of your producers think routine veterinary care is not a financial strain, but there's a good chunk, the 37%, that do think that having the veterinarian come out to do physical exams, vaccines, dewormings is a strain on their operation. And then for emergency care, it is 50-50. And when we split that with this part where They say they're prepared to cover those expenses. 97% are prepared to cover routine care expenses. 95% are prepared to cover emergency expenses. So from this, I'm kind of just taking it with the other one and saying, well, if there's a bunch of you who think it's a strain on your operations and on your pocketbook, but you're still willing to pay for it, that probably means price isn't necessarily what you're looking at right here. So from that, we concluded that, or preliminarily concluded, that your producers are maybe not as sensitive as I might have thought, because there are differences in the way we treat livestock versus our pets, and I thought that would influence it. But it seems that in general, producers are insensitive to livestock as it stands right now. Thank you.
Can I get some help? Am I just supposed to tap it? There it goes. Slideshow and perfect. All right, thank you. Hey, my name is Logan Coleman. I am a senior scholar who is majoring in philosophy and in chemistry. I'm a double major. I'll get more into that towards the end of the presentation, but I'm hoping to go to law school here in the fall. My scholars project that I'm doing with Dr. Shelton is analysis and characterization of honeys. So, basic overview, right now we have 74 honey samples. We're about to get more. That number will be a lot higher. But we take a couple commercial samples, but mainly we focus on local regional samples and we try to characterize it. We have 4 different tests that we do, and we're trying to measure the moisture content, the pH, the color, and then heavy metal analysis of these honey samples. And these are brought to us by a lot of local beekeepers, regional beekeepers, people who do not have access to this data on their own normally. Now, moisture content is something they check for, but something such as color with a UV-vis spectroscopy or metal analysis with this ICP OES, which stands for inductively coupled plasma optical emission spec, a farmer does not have that. That is this device down here. It's a pretty expensive device. I'm glad that UT Martin has it. And so we're here to kind of help out and educate farmers on what is in their honey samples. Up here is a refractometer. What that is used for is to measure the moisture content. You just stick a sample of honey on the blue part and it reads out your moisture. In the middle, I have the UV-vis spec. This right here details wavelengths and intensity values of your maximum wavelength, which helps define your color. Now, going a little bit more into the metal content, because this is what I've been mainly focusing on, I have a list of 19 metals that I test for in this machine. And basically, I dilute a sample of nitric acid. I introduce this sample into a high temperature plasma. This is going to excite our sample, which is going to release light at a specific wavelength. From that wavelength and how intense that wavelength value is, I can quantify in parts per million how much metal of a specific metal is in each sample of honey. Now, you don't take a sample of honey and taste it and you're like, oh, this tastes like lead. Normally, these are small values. Now, if you do, that's a little worrisome, but these metals here are in parts per million, and they're in small enough quantities that you're not going to just taste it, but some of these can be harmful if in high enough values. There's no safe value of lead in honey whatsoever. Same with cesium, same with arsenic, same with mercury, and it's not something you can just normally taste. So in a way, this is a way to not only characterize honey, but help out local beekeepers if there's any issues with their honey. Now, I want to acknowledge the Blankenship Undergraduate Research Endowment, the UTM Department of Chemistry and Physics, and the UTM College of Engineering and Natural Sciences for their help in making this project possible. Now, why did I want to do a project like this? So I'm going off to law school, and I'm doing a research project on analyzing honey. What do those have in common together? That is a great question. And the way I like to approach this, I came into college and I did not know what I wanted to do with my education. I think that happens for a lot of college students. You come in, you don't know what you want to do. And I just came in and I was like, because college is the obvious choice, right? I was one of those people. And I kind of took education for granted. It took being in the scholars program for me to kind of realize what I wanted to do in my education, what I wanted to do, what I was actually like passionate in. And I came in originally as a chemistry major because I liked chemistry. It was something I did in high school and I enjoyed doing it. And through these scholars classes, through the curriculum, I kind of realized why I like chemistry so much. I liked all these rules, all these scientific facts, and I liked applying it and building an argument out of it. Through the scholars courses, I found another passion in philosophy for the exact same reason. I love logical reasoning. I love building arguments, whether it's empirical evidence, and empirical evidence is used in philosophy, but there's more abstract concepts in that. I just like to build arguments. So this right here, this entire research project is me building an argument, essentially. And after freshman year of college, I had an internship in a food lab, food safety lab, and this was kind of what attracted me to this project. I saw a previous scholars report. I saw that they did heavy metal content testing. I saw that some of those values looked higher than what I thought they should be, but there were only 2 samples ran in this project. And so I went to Dr. Shelton and I was like, I'm curious to know more about this. And then she was like, the methodology we used a chemical microwave, which is not like your food microwave. It's not meant to heat up food evenly. It's more meant to precisely target and speed up your reaction and heat up samples. It exploded. Full on blew up in EPS. They were only able to run 2 samples, but they had just gotten in this ICP over here, relatively new in the Latimer Smith Science Building, and I was like, I want to use that. I want to do this because I have a background in it, but from looking at those levels, I kind of had a little bit of a concern as well. The law on this matter, because I do want to go off to law school, and the law on this is currently there's no set defined limits, but the FDA tends to step in at levels that I was seeing. And this was something that local beekeepers, when you sell your honey at the farmer's market, and I'm not saying don't buy that honey. A lot of it is good. It's not going to harm you, especially in the amounts you're getting from a farmer's market. Those laws are there to keep people safe, and I just wanted to keep people safe in conjunction with that. That's pretty much all I've got. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Austin. I'm one of 3 people with a chemistry major at this table, but I think you'll find that what all 3 of us do are actually pretty different. I have a concentration in forensic science, so I'm hoping to go on and teach this forensic science to everybody. So after I finish my undergraduate, I'm going to go on and get a chemistry PhD at either Michigan State University or West Virginia University. I've not fully decided just yet. But this research with the honors program has really, really altered the course of my life, really. I came in here kind of wanting to do chemistry and joined the honors program. And that honors program has really made me go outside of my field. A lot of the classes and stuff behind the honors program aren't chemistry. A lot of them are humanities, or we've got a math history course, and it's just a lot of different things. So this program has really helped diversify really what I expected to get from Martin. So I started doing research, and of course, as a chemistry major, you're required to do a semester of research, but you don't really have to do past that. I started my research in the spring of my sophomore year with Dr. Amanda Burkhart, and it was a kind of beginner project just to learn the ropes of how to do a forensic analysis research project, and it was on herbal supplements. So I was looking at different contaminants, potential contaminants in these herbal supplements that you can just go get from like Walmart or Amazon, seeing if what they actually have what they say that they have. And this project was good for learning how to do research, but I didn't really have an end goal with it. So we were trying to figure out something that could have a little more impact and not just doing research for the sake of research. And I'm walking in the hall of the newly built Latimer Smith building, and I run into Dr. Burkhart, and she stops me and she says, "Hey, have you heard of Delta 8 THC?" And I'm not sure how familiar everybody in this room is with Delta 8 THC products, but they're extremely easy to purchase. You can go to that Smoker Friendly down there, buy these products. You only recently have to be 21 to purchase them. But the general idea of Delta 8 THC is that it is an isomer of the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. And it is actually like chemically synthesized from hemp. And the 2018 Farm Bill, or U.S. Farm Bill, says that any products synthesized from hemp with under 0.3% Delta 9 THC, where Delta 9 is the active ingredient in marijuana, anything synthesized from hemp with under that 0.3% is legal for sale. That includes the isomers of Delta 9 THC that are basically Delta 9 THC. So Delta 8 THC works very similarly. It has similar psychoactive effects, if not a little bit weaker, but it's still psychoactive. So these products, even though Delta 9 THC is not legal for sale, these Delta 8 THC products are. And in fact, a lot of these products are marketed like candies, and they'll have confusing branding where it'll be like a Nerd's Rope, but it's Delta 8 THC. And these products, if parents get them, they'll have them in their cabinets and store them, and their kids will get into them, or they'll eat too much and it will lead to sickness. So a lot of these products are not very regulated because it is a legal loophole and there's not a whole lot of research into these Delta 8 products. So my goal was to analyze these products mainly to quantify the Delta 8 THC and also the Delta 9 THC in these products. So I've been doing that for about 2 years now, and I won't get into all of the specifics because I know that's not my audience, but it has been an amazing opportunity. As a small school, we don't really have the ability to get controlled substances. But I would like to do controlled substance analysis. So it really is the closest I can get to analyze controlled substances without actually analyzing controlled substances. And this project has been an amazing opportunity for me to learn what research is like, learn what controlled substance analysis is like, and has given me many amazing opportunities. Like this past summer, I got to work at the National Institute of Standards and Technology And that was, I mean, extremely eye-opening. Here we do research 3 hours a week, and there I was doing research 40 hours a week, and it really helped me see that I really like what I'm doing. I really like this research. So I think that the research here at UTM has been such an influential part of, I mean, my college career and my life in general. So I am extremely thankful for the opportunity that I've been given. But I think that is all that I have. So, thank you.
It might be me. I wasn't sure if the dean was coming back up, but I'm up. Yeah, thank you. Here I am. Yeah. No, it's. I hope everybody's as impressed as I am all over again to hear what these folks are doing. I look out and I see more scholars in the audience, and if you were up here in a year, you'd be saying amazing things about the kind of work that you're going to be doing as well. I think I said they were all seniors. I'm sorry, Seth. I wasn't thinking, but we'll give you an extra year. But Seth is also an applicant this year. He's one of the two applicants from UT Martin for the Goldwater Foundation scholarships. And we are very hopeful that we will have good news at the end of March for Seth Hatchett, and we'll keep everyone posted on that. Are there any questions for the panelists? Yes, sir. Let me provide you a microphone. That way, you'll be forever on tape.
If we provide Austin Vest with controlled substances, can he test them with UT Martin equipment?
I'll have to get back to you on that. Yeah, I bet no, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
This series is about research and how we conduct research. How much of the time you spend with your mentors is about talking about methodology and research, as well as talking about what you want to research? Are you spending a lot of time talking about how you do it?
I think Dr. Owens is very tired of methodology, as much as I am, because with engineering, everything's really trial and error. Like, you can simulate all you want, but the second you go and make something, something's going to go wrong. So how we make it and how we get what we want is a lot of discussion, and then how do we fix what we've made? That's like, as the years, you saw a really big chunk and then you saw the cutouts. That all happened within the past 2 weeks, because whenever I designed them, I didn't think of weight. So whenever we talk about what we want, if we don't incorporate the methodology in those conversations very frequently, mistakes like that happen. And then we get the wonderful outcomes of that, where I get to learn how to use a plasma cutter and not hurt myself or anybody else around. And so the developing methodology of how do we expand the methods that we've created to get better results is almost every time we meet. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
So, to ensure I'm understanding your question, you're asking how much time is actually spent doing things versus how much is spent discussing how to do things, or? I would say that my experience was that early on in my project, we spent most of the time discussing how to do things and less of the time actually doing things. It was a lot more literature review, reading papers, teaching me how to use software, things like that. And then as I have progressed, it's more and more of me doing things and then reporting my results and discussing what to do next, because I know the techniques, I know when to apply the different techniques, and now I'm just working on getting the results and actually using the techniques.
So from my point of view, a lot of the stuff that I have done with my project has been stuff that we've talked about in classes, like the chemistry classes. And it's more things that we didn't have time for in our chemistry labs, I was able to spend some extra time on with my research advisor. And that first semester that I talked about, where I wasn't really doing the project that I'm doing right now, was a lot of figuring out what to do and how everything works, and trying new things out, things that I'd never done with my hands, and things that I had more heard about other people doing with their hands. So for me, it started out with a lot of the literature review, right? But it was also a lot of hands-on stuff, just hands-on stuff in a different way, like a more simplified, let's figure out what's going on here, that kind of figuring it out.
I would say for me, as a humanities person, the process is a bit different. So I'm not doing a lot of hands-on work, right? So when I first started meeting with Dr. McDonough, the idea was, what book should I be reading? Learning about Washington himself, who he was as a person, as an individual, what his character was like, and sitting down and discussing those things that I found in my reading. How true are they? How can we really know someone? And so those were more of the discussions that we were doing as I was reading. I also had the opportunity to take a couple classes with Dr. McDonough and do research papers. And so we would kind of talk about those and my findings and my conclusions in those papers as well. So.
So I think if there's one thing that's been incredibly rewarding in the job I get to do, it's to watch students come in with increasingly wide eyes and say, what's a research project? And how do I do that? And what we have in McCombs now is a wall of projects that have been completed since the first graduating class in 1984. A continuing piece of those projects is a reflection on how the student came to the project, how they developed the project. And the best thing I've heard today is, well, it's what you heard today. I hope that you also thought maybe it was the best part. You learned how to do by doing. And the University of Tennessee at Martin is a place that affords that kind of close mentoring with faculty. You don't get, well, as Seth said, right? I mean, you would have had to be a postdoc if you were at the R1 to do the kind of work that you got to do this summer at Duke. But UT Martin can provide students with this sort of experience that gets them to go to these sorts of REUs while they're undergraduates, to get them to go off and see statues. Well, I guess that was when you were a senior, but you kept the picture of George Washington. Yeah. I also thought it was very clever that, did you do this on purpose, that the first picture was far away from the building and the finishing line was close to the building. This is the kind of work that I see. Yeah, no, it was good. Oh, so, okay, there you are. It was good. Anyway, this is the great joy of being able to work with these students in McCombs and in the University Scholars Program. We completed interviews for the incoming class, and we have an absolutely remarkable group, I think, who will be here in the fall, who are going to continue in the tradition of these students here. And all of, well, no, not Seth, I almost did it twice. All but Seth will be defending a project this April, and we'll put that out to the campus, and all of those defenses are open to everybody who wants to come and hear the final presentations of these projects, and 15 more besides yours. Yeah, so it should be a very good year that way. Thank you all very much.